Hello, everyone. I'm Julian Jacques, and I'm here with Ashley Kelsey from the Real World San Diego.
Hey, how are you?
My first question is, where are you originally from?
I'm actually originally from a small town called Winsted in Connecticut. It's very, very small, middle of the woods kind of thing. Grew up a little secluded, I guess.
How long did it take you to get to San Diego?
I had to hop on a plane. It took me 2 flights, but I got there. It took me about 7 hours, and then I was there in the house and let the filming begin.
Did they start filming as soon as you got to the airport in Connecticut and or when you got to Laxport?
Well, actually, what happened was they fly us in early just to kind of like have a day to kind of get things together, sit down with production, and just kind of get used to even just being in a new state. And then as soon as we get picked up to go to the house, we're mic'd, cameras in our face, and it's time to film.
Why did you want to be on the show?
It was kind of an opportunity that, in a sense, fell in my lap, and I thought to myself, if they pick me to go on this show, I'm supposed to be there. So once I got the call saying, we really want you to come on the show, I was like, all right, I'm going because obviously I'm supposed to.
Were you nervous to meet your other roommate?
Oh, I was insanely nervous because I had never lived with anybody in my life besides my mother and obviously my brother. For me, it was a little intimidating because I didn't know how I was going to feel. I didn't know what it was going to be like. I was like, am I going to be comfortable being around people all the time? Because at home, I'm usually by myself. So, to be around 6 other individuals 24 hours a day, I was like, oh, man, that might be a little overwhelming for me.
When you first saw your roommates, did you prejudge them?
For me, I honestly go into everything with an open mind. I am not judgmental at all. And even if people are different than, what I believe or how I feel or something, like, that's usually their thing. I'm not one to push myself on anyone. So, in a sense, it makes me a little passive and quiet and seem unopinionated, but it's just that I don't feel the need to get in arguments or get into like petty little fights or anything like that over something so small. So I try to just keep myself open to everybody and kind of base off what I feel about them off of just their personality alone and how I get along with them.
How self-aware were you in the house?
It took me a long time to adjust. There's a couple processes you're going through there, from just getting used to the cameras and production, and then, adjusting to your roommates and being in a totally different place. And it took me a lot longer than I anticipated. I was very, very, very timid in front of the cameras. And it's more so because, you're thinking in your head, you don't ever want to be misrepresented. So, and I'm always one to really watch what I say. I don't want to hurt people's feelings by what I say or, come off wrong. So it was definitely a process for me, that's for sure.
Have you watched any other seasons of Real World before?
I haven't been an avid Real World watcher, which is kind of funny. I've seen a lot of the past seasons when it first aired way back when, and, every once in a while I'll flip into the channels, had seen an episode or 2 of some recent seasons, but I haven't really followed it. So, in a sense, I kind of went into it like I didn't really know what to expect only because I forgot what it was like. I maybe should have went back and watched a couple of seasons before I left.
What was your first impression towards Zach?
Obviously Zach's a very good-looking guy, so I noticed that right away. And for me, it was kind of funny because when I said in my interview, when it came to my type of guy, I was like, I'm really into athletes. I like really tall guys because I'm relatively tall myself, and I like big built. And he walked in, I was like, you basically put exactly what I described in the house. Like, thank you, MTV. But obviously, you have reservations about everybody because we are all there for a reason, and you never know what it is. You're kind of thinking, like, something might be wrong with this person. Are they crazy? Are they this? So you're kind of, like, reserved as to trying to get to know someone because you don't want to put your guard down too soon.
So Frank is the first roommate that you meet. What was your first impression towards Frank?
Frank seemed like super fun, and I was like, this guy's going to be crazy because, he's so quirky, and he was very, very open to me. He just kind of like, he brought me in for a hug, and I was so not expecting it because that's not me. I'm very like, I never say I'm shy because I'm not a shy girl, but I'm timid. I definitely am an observer. I kick back and just kind of watch what's going on around me. And so I was like, this guy's going to be a lot of fun. And I also, he's not one to hold back. So the things he was saying, I was like, oh, man, like, this is not what I'm used to at all. But I definitely knew that he'd be a fun person to have in the house.
What did you think of the house?
When we pulled up, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if we were going to be in, like, a little condo type place. Like, obviously not condo because 7 people can't live in a condo. But, something, like, smaller near the ocean. And we had this grand, huge mansion. And I was like, oh, my gosh, we get to live here. That's amazing. It's just this house was really, really nice. And we had the pool and the hot tub and just so many fun things and, like, the ping pong table. And we had a beach on our roof, which was really awesome. And, I was just like, I'm happy that I get to spend 3 months living in this awesome, amazing house.
So Priscilla was your designated driver. How awesome was that?
I honestly felt so bad for Priscilla when I came to the house because I didn't know, obviously, until she told us how young she was. And I was like, oh, no, like, what are we supposed to do when we go out? I'm like, do you have a fake ID? Can you use it? And then we found out, she couldn't really go to any of the bars with us. And I was like, this sucks. So I would constantly, she could tell you every time that there was a new club we wanted to go to, I would call up the club. I'd try to get on the phone with the owner, be like, can we bring her? Like, she won't drink. She'll have, like, X's on her hands, like, anything I could do to get her to come out to some places. And, obviously I was rejected most, but I tried my hardest for her because I just felt really bad. It was also really sweet of her to always be the one to be like, I'll come get you, like, I'll drop you guys off. That was really great of her.
How did your family feel about you being on the Real World?
My family they were very supportive. They just said, if this is something that you want to do and you think it's going to be beneficial, go and have a great time. I kind of looked at it as an experience of I get to go live in San Diego for 3 months this summer and, just kind of sit back and relax. I spent the last 6 years of my life, like, working full-time, going to school full-time. I bartended since I was 19, so I always worked Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. It's been a really long time since I just kind of sat down, relaxed, and just did my own thing and not had to worry. So I was very excited about going, and they were excited for me as well.
Do people recognize you in public?
It's funny because you don't really know if people are going to, and then at home, it's funny because everyone knows me, so obviously everyone recognizes you. But more recently, now that the season's further in, a lot more people start to recognize you, want to take pictures with you. And you're like, me? I'm not important. Like, why do you want to take a picture with me? Yeah, it's pretty cool, though.
Do you care what people say about you?
I don't really care if people love me, hate me, kind of like me. That doesn't bother me. It more personally bothers me if I'm being misrepresented. That's the only thing that, that's why I'm so cautious of what I say, because I'm like, I don't want to offend anybody. I'm really, like, I'm trying to hurt someone's feelings. And so that kind of bothers me more when I see myself kind of like, oh, that's not really what I meant, or that's not how exactly how I feel, and then someone's judging you about it. It kind of gets you over time, but in something like this, you just kind of have to say, I know who I am. The people that are close to me, my friends and family, know who I am, and those are the people that really matter. So you kind of learn to just not care. And even before, I think I cared a little more than I do now. That's for sure.
So in this week's episode, Zach says something to Sam while he's playing ping pong with Nate. Did you feel like Sam overreacted about the whole situation?
Well, honestly, at the time, I didn't know this, but Zach constantly had said that prior to her, like, jokingly. I don't think it's ever something, like, she necessarily joke about, but she never took offense, and they kind of did it as a playful thing. And then that day, she had a really rough day. He had no idea, and she just really, I think, wasn't looking for a negative comment. And I did feel bad for her, because that's the last thing you want to hear when you're just really upset about someone that's so close to you. And I think sometimes Zach's very playful, and he just says things, and sometimes he doesn't think as much as he should, and he doesn't mean things maliciously, though. So I felt for both of them in this situation, because it was like, oh boy, like, you should have really thought about that, but then it's like, oh, he didn't mean it like that. So you're kind of like, you feel really bad for both of them.
So Zach and Frank have this ongoing feud between them. Is it hard being on either or side, or do you just let them do them and you're just friends with everyone?
For me, that's exactly what I tried to do. I tried to, I honestly, if something's not personally affecting me, I try to just let people do their thing. I worry about myself and people that are directly affecting myself. But it was really hard in the house, because I felt like a lot of the time people were a little intimidated by Zach and didn't really want to go directly to him to ask him anything, because they were kind of maybe afraid to hear what his response was going to be, or they didn't know what he was going to say. So a lot of the times they'd come to me, which I was okay with, but I always felt like the middleman. And also I felt like, I knew going into it that if anything were to happen with me and Zach, in a relationship sense, that I'd be tied to him no matter what. So sometimes the way that Zach expressed himself is always directly, like, guilty by association with me, and I'm correlated with that. And that's not really that fair, but I took that on, and I kind of knew that was going to happen. So, a lot of the times I did feel like the middle person in the house, and I really tried to kind of stay out of it as much as possible, but over time, that just isn't possible anymore.
So this week's after show, the main idea was the whole Zach and Sam situation, as well as the Frank and Zach weekly feud, because every week they're always at it. One thing you said was, why go on the show if you don't want to be surrounded by the 7 different people? I absolutely agree with you. The show is about grabbing 7 strangers and putting them in the house to see what happens.
In a sense, I think everyone goes on the show and says, I want to learn and grow and that and that. And I don't necessarily think that's true, but I do believe that you're put in these situations to see how it's going to how you're going to react. That's why they cast certain people. I mean, they're going to cast two people that are completely different because you're going to see something happen. You're going to see a reaction to people's actions and what they say. And but one thing I also do say is, we're 7 completely different people. We're going to have similarities. I knew from the start that there were going to be certain people that were going to be drawn to others and certain people that were going to be distant because they don't like, maybe their actions, maybe how they speak or whatever it may be. People really need to understand is everyone's journey there is going to be different. Everyone's going to get something different out of it. Some people might learn, it might grow, and might, decide that I believe this instead of that. Or some people might be like, you know what, I felt this way coming into the house and I still feel this way going out. It's a different journey for everyone, and I don't think anybody should be judged by that. That's just my opinion about just in general this season.
Now, instead of being casted for the Real World, was there any other show that you would have rather been casted for?
Yeah, no, I don't think I can see myself on the Bad Girls. I mean, that would be kind of funny though. The MTV shows, I honestly would say this was a good match for me because I did learn some things. I learned how to live with other people, how to be in a house, and you might not like everything going on, but how to distance yourself from that. And there's just a lot of things you can learn, and I think it was a good experience for me. Personally, if I could pick any show on TV, aside from MTV, I want to go on The Amazing Race. I think that would be such a fun experience. You get to travel everywhere, and you get to have such a good time, and I would love to be on that show.
Now, is there any celebrity that you hope watches the show?
Not really. I don't really. That's kind of a funny question because I don't really think about that kind of stuff. It's funny when people say, who's your favorite celebrity or, what's your favorite this? I don't really have favorites. I kind of just have, general things that I like. And, I have my obviously go-to actors and actresses that I like to watch because they're really funny or really good actors. I don't know. I honestly couldn't think of one person off my top of my head.
What should we expect to see from you this season?
It's kind of funny. I ask myself that question, too, sometimes. Because you really don't know what's coming next. It's out of your control. That's another thing I honestly learned in the process of just filming in general is what you did there. Everyone knows the story. Everyone knows what really happened. But as to what they show of you, you're really not sure where your character is going to go. For me, unfortunately, I feel like sometimes I'm very unopinionated on the show because, I didn't express myself as loudly as I maybe could have, or I was kind of a little too passive for people's likings because, everyone likes the drama. Everyone wants to see the crazy stuff. And for someone that just kind of is like, I do my own thing and I'm okay with that. You don't have to be a part of it. You do your own thing and I'm cool with that too. I kind of get downplayed a little bit, and so I'm interested to see where I go to just as much as you are. I think you'll see with me though is I'm just so relaxed. I sit back, I have a good time. I was there to enjoy myself. I wasn't trying to go there and grow as a person or express myself in this way or do this charitable thing because in my feelings, we're on The Real World, everyone. We're on MTV. There's so much stuff sex and inappropriate behavior and all this stuff going on that it's I didn't want to go start a charity there or anything, and I didn't really know one that I particularly wanted anyways, So I was I'm just gonna take this as a time to just enjoy myself and meet a couple great people. I mean, you have obviously people you get closer to in the house than others, but I think we've all learned from each other in some way, shape, or form, whether it's littlest, minute thing, or something grand.
All right, Ashley, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for doing this podcast. Bye, Ashley, and talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.